Now, I don't mind what you say about me as long as you don't mind what I say about you. Really up to you what you do with your life.
Welcome to the show. I'm Michael Kuzilny. Tough times never last. Thank you for tuning in. We've had some really amazing guests on the couch over the last few years, and very authentic and very real. Tonight we've got the great man Sam Newman. Thank you for coming on, Sam. We don't really need to speak too much about tough times because you've had such a successful life.
Oh no, my life is just one tough battle after another.
We've just seen excitement, you know. Sam, where did it all start off? Where did you grow up, and when did you become?
Assuming I have grown up, I grew up in Geelong.
Yes.
Went to a school down in Geelong all my life, and left in 1963, and went to play football for Geelong. Worked in a bank, basically so I could get off for training, and made that my vocation. Mainly.
Amazing. And tell me about your football career. How many years? And
18.
18 years, yeah.
From 1963 to 1980.
Amazing. And a lot of players, once they lose the stop playing, a lot of them go downhill, don't they? Because they
well, a lot of them don't prepare for life after football.
Yeah.
They think it's going to be they don't realise it's an ephemeral thing which lasts as long as you can stand up and run properly, and after that they tend not to take any prepare for later in life. I was fortunate where it's not what you know, it's who you know. I was asked to go on a show called The World of Sport when I finished, because I filled in for the great late Jack Dyer when he had a car accident on the way to a presentation night, and I was the captain of Geelong, and they said, would you mind filling in for him? So I got up out of my seat having dinner at the old Southern Cross Hotel, the Kuzilny Awards they were, and I did my bit, and they said, well, that was an unusual way of actually doing a segment, so they thought that was a bit novel or a bit unique. So I went on to The World of Sport on Channel 7 for 7 years, and then when that finished I was employed by Channel 9, where I am at the minute.
Fantastic. And you're a very good entertainer. Did you do some media work beforehand?
No, I didn't. A lot of people would dispute that I'm a good entertainer, but that's all right. I appreciate you saying that. People just... there's a difference between doing it publicly and being on television as opposed to maybe just doing this, being who you are.
Sam, you keep it very real. I think that's what everybody loves about you. But there's a lot of whingers out there, and I read it in the paper recently. You said, "I don't care. I don't even read the paper too often, or check my email or Facebook."
I have no problem with that because I don't have a computer.
That's fantastic.
So I don't have an email, and I vaguely know what the social media is, and I vaguely know what emails and blogging and tweets and whatever else goes with it, but I have no interest in it at all.
That's fantastic.
I look at it. I am not interested in anyone else's miserable, boring life. Why would they be interested in mine? So I don't bother telling people about my boring, uninteresting life.
Well, I think that's a great idea. Do you think there's so much anxiety, depression in the world at the moment? A lot of it must come from all this texting and,
of course, a very pernicious
Facebook
thing, social media.
Yeah.
A very dangerous thing. And people who, as Andy Warhol said, people want to be famous for 15 seconds, minutes, days, years of their life, 15 minutes of their life. And their anonymity is protected in social media, so they do and say anything about anyone and have no responsibility for the consequences. And it's really, they're just psychotic, treacherous anarchists that spew out bile and nonsense, and why anyone would be bothered reading it or listening to it or actually being part of it has got me dumbfounded. But then again, as I've been told many times, I'm a Luddite, a troglodyte, a dinosaur. I come from another generation. So you stay over that side and I'll stay here.
Good advice.
It's probably not good advice. It's just pragmatic advice.
Sam, I think most Aussies, when they watch the footy show, they enjoy watching you the most.
Well, I don't know that, mate. So
There's been a lot of changes in recent times. Tell me about some of those changes. What's happened there?
Well, Eddie Maguire, the best television performer in the world. In the world. I don't say that lightly. Ask anyone how Eddie Maguire operates on television, and anyone in the business will say that. He started what's known as the Footy Show off in 1994. Asked me to come along and be part of it, along with Trevor Marmalade, who was a comedian. So he hosted that for 10 years, and Kerry Packer asked him. Well, I think Kerry Packer actually passed away, so he asked, the network asked Eddie to go up and run Channel 9 in Sydney, and the parochial anarchists, the media in Sydney, ran him out of town, more or less. And he came back and set up Maguire Media. In the meantime, Gary Lyon and James Brayshaw took over the hosting of the footy show. They call me a co-host, but I'm not at all. I'm just sit there and listen to what they say and then comment when they ask me to. And then Gary left, and James and Rebecca Madden took over. And we got a lot of brownie points for Rebecca Madden coming on, because they said, oh, we've got a woman on at last. We're not sexist. We've joined the new century. We are enlightened. We've got a woman on to appease all those people who said we were sexist. First we were racist, and then we were sexist. And nothing could be further from the truth. Rebecca Madden was chosen because she was the best man for the job.
We might talk about some of those changes, Sam, after the next break.
Oh, I see.
But we'll be back very shortly with Sam Newman. Don't go away. Thank you very much for watching Tough Times Never Last. We've got the great man Sam Newman on the couch telling us about his life story and the footy show, some of the dramas in recent months. What's happened there? What caused all the dramas?
Well, Gary left the show. It's pretty well documented why. He had a bit of a difference of opinion and strategy with his once close friend Bill Brownless. So then James Brayshaw partnered Rebecca Madden, who came from Channel 7, and then James had some contractual discussions with Nine which seemed to go nowhere, so they parted company, and Craig Hutchison took over. And Craig anchored the show with Rebecca until about a month ago when Eddie came back. So the wheel turned a full cycle, if that's a mixed metaphor or cliche.
Amazing.
And so here we are. I'm back with the man who started it, and he's a very good friend of mine. But I wouldn't like to say it's all been plain sailing. If this is what this show's about, I've had more downs than I have ups, but I'll tell you this. In order to appreciate the highs in life, you've got to experience the lows, and I have certainly done that, so I'm very fortunate to do what I do.
Yeah.
I'm semi-retired. I have 5 months of the year off when the football's not on, and work 7 months of the year and on Thursday nights. So I would have to say I'm semi-retired. I enjoy doing it. I think the great secret in life. Now, just consider this. Your life is divided into thirds. You spend 8 hours a day in bed, you spend 8 hours a day working, and you spend 8 hours a day in leisure. If you don't like who you work with or who you go to bed with, it's a hell of a long life. It's a really stressful life. So I really enjoy the people I work with.
It's fantastic.
I don't take myself too seriously, and we insist that people don't take themselves too seriously, because if they do, we like to whack them. Because it's only football we're talking about. We're not talking about anything that... We're not trying to split the atom. It's not about nuclear fission or anything like that. It's about football. So it's a pretty serious thing to a lot of people who are emotionally involved, but we try and keep it lighthearted and a bit satirical and a bit of parody, but we get into trouble for those
Sam,
things.
you do such a fantastic job doing that. I just find we've created such a hate-filled and busy and stress-filled world, and there's not much laughter. You don't see many people smiling anymore, but you certainly make Australian audiences laugh, which is great.
Well, we like to laugh with people, not necessarily at them. But I have a philosophy anyhow. I don't mind what you say about me as long as you don't mind what I say about you. And you'll find how very, very unbalanced that particular statement is, because people are very happy to give it out, but they're not very happy to cop it. And I don't have anyone I dislike intensely. I have a handful of friends, and that's about it. So I'm fairly antisocial, don't go out at all. Don't mind getting hassled, but get hassled a lot, so I don't go out. But as someone said, I think a president of the United States, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. The only thing you've got to do in life is die. You don't have to do anything else if you don't want to. So it's completely up to do what you do, and completely up to you what you do with your life.
That's great advice. Sam, what you said before is very true. We don't appreciate the good times unless we go through the tough times.
Yeah.
If you think about three of the toughest things you've gone through in your life, what would they be?
Well, first of all, so when I played football, I had, because it was my vocation, I had every injury that you could think of, and that was frustrating and not depressing as in I didn't get depressed, but you get very down because you're not able to do the only thing I was good at is playing football. So that was hard to... I played for 18 years and missed the equivalent of 5 years of football through injury. I missed 100 games through injury, and that in those days there was 20 games a year, so 5 20s are 100, that's 100 games. Played 303 games for Geelong. So I missed 100 of those missed 100 through injury. And then I got into a business with a man who owned a transport company, and I guaranteed him at the bank. I gave him a bank guarantee, and he went bankrupt, and the bank called up my guarantee, and I lost every cent I had in life at age 51. So I'd come all this way, and I remember sitting in my... this is true, this sounds really hokey, doesn't it? But I remember sitting in my lounge room in Middle Park, where I had a house. The power was off, been cut off. I had not a cent, I didn't go bankrupt, but I discharged all my debts, but I had no money at all. So I went and stayed with my friend of 50 years at the back of his shop out in Ascot Vale. He's a dental prosthesist, a dental technician. And I stayed out the back in one room for 18 months at the back of his house, to which I'm indebted to him forever.
He's a good mate.
He's a very good mate. Well, it's not where you go in life, it's who you go with. And he was a very good friend of mine, and still is, of course. And I got myself back on my feet by doing a series of articles in the Sun and then the Herald Sun, where I interviewed first of all footballers, and then it became a popular thing, and I interviewed personalities that visited Melbourne, sports people and entertainers, and so that got me back on my feet again.
Well, you did a great job doing that as well. Sam, I was just thinking when you said Middle Park, everybody admired the Pamela Anderson, that blue tiles.
Yeah.
Who designed that? Was that your idea?
No, it wasn't my idea. I got blamed for that. They said I was trying to turn it into a sort of a brothel or something in the middle. It was actually a young architect called Cassandra Fay. She designed it. She won some awards overseas for it. It was a pixelated image of Pamela Anderson on the whole facade of the property. I had no idea that she was going to do that. The first time I knew about it was when we went to the council to get a permit for it, and both the architect, the council person councilman who was going to give us the permit said, "What is it?" And I said, "Yeah, what is it, Cassandra?" And she said, "It's a pixelated image of Pamela Anderson." So she constructed and had that erected and built and designed, and
was quite beautiful.
She won a lot of awards for it. But I never lived in the house, but I owned it.
I see. Well, I'm glad I know the answer after all these years, but we'll be back very shortly, and thank you very much for watching. Love and best wishes. Back shortly. Thank you very much for tuning in. Tough times never last. Sammy's on the couch. Actually, they don't call you Sammy, do they?
They do.
Do they? Sammy, your love life. Have you found the right woman?
My love life. Gee whiz. Have I found her? Yeah, I found her lots of times, yeah. I've been married 3 times. Could have been married 7 times, easily. But probably withstood being married any more than 3 times. Mind you, the women I went out with probably, when they were discussing it, I remember saying to one of them, "Would you like to be the 4th Mrs. Newman?" They said, "Yeah, I see what you mean. Perhaps we won't get married." And I didn't.
Yes,
but
sir.
I'm a heterosexual, which doesn't matter if I'm not. But I like women, despite what people say, because I get called a sexist and a racist and, of course, a homophobe. If you have a difference of opinion with someone who's gay, that's all that is required to be named as a homophobe. Notwithstanding, you might have a difference of opinion with him or her because you have a difference of opinion with them, gender notwithstanding. The only 2 things I'm waiting to be called, which I haven't been called yet, but I'll give someone a clue and they can put this into the narrative next time they're speaking ill of me, and that's a bigot and a white supremacist. So I'm waiting for the 5 things: racist, homophobe, sexist, bigot and white supremacist. I'm waiting for those things to be laid on me.
You're so right, Sam. Everything is so sugar-coated these days. Growing up in the 80s, you had a few beers. Everything, you can look at somebody now and it's an assault case, isn't it? And you can say the wrong thing. We're too prim and proper, aren't we?
Well, we are, but look, this is, I know life evolves, and I'm not, of course. We should be respectful to people that need to be respected.
Yeah.
Some people don't need to be respected. But there's almost a cottage industry of people. There's a competition going on in the world to see who can be the most righteous and the most aggrieved about anything that you say. Anything you say about anything can be picked up by people who want to make a point about you or the subject you're speaking about. And I'm fortunate. I'm of a different generation to most of the people I speak to. I'm well past all that, so I actually don't give a damn.
No, which is great.
I don't give a damn because I don't mind offending people, but I refuse to be told that I'm offending people if I'm having a genuine, legitimate conversation with someone who has a difference of opinion with me. And that is the basis of all discussions and robust conversation, but you'll be amazed at how it gets hijacked by those who have an agenda.
But you're always very respectful towards everybody.
No, I'm not. I'm not respectful
have
to
a bit of
people
a
who
laugh.
aren't respectful to me. So, and most of the people I would be accused of not being respectful to would be people I used to interview out in the street in a thing called street talk. But people who like to comment on that particular aspect of our show never ever came out to see how it was done. We never, I get sick of saying this, we went out and spoke to the rank and file, the salt of the earth people out in the world who are entertaining and probably weren't going to assemble any rockets in their backyard with a view to putting them on the moon. But I'm one of those people as well. I partially educated myself. And I never abused people, never hounded them, never harassed them. I just asked them a question and they did the rest. And you'd be amazed at how many people we interviewed loved being on and asked to be on, no matter how stupid they appeared to themselves or to us, they loved it. And I got sick of having to tell people that. But for the sake of this, I'll tell people that. So I've abused plenty of people, but I reckon I'd be well behind the 8 ball. I reckon more people have abused me than I've abused.
But Sam, the beautiful thing about you, I think most of all this stress and anxiety, we're too concerned about the opinions of other people. You're independent towards the opinions of other people.
Well,
in a way.
I don't have a computer, so I'm
No,
not
which is
on that
great.
side. I know people say this. I don't read the papers. I don't read the news.
No.
I just don't listen to the radio.
Well, I think
I listen to the
95
radio, but my sort of radio I listen to. But
I think 95% of Aussies love you, and 5% are jealous and they want to have a go. They're jealous.
I don't know about that. I don't think 95% of
Sam,
Australians would like me. I think the probably majority wouldn't, but that's fine. That's an opinion. Can't be wrong. It's an opinion.
Sammy, you're so mild, but when you see people like Gordon Ramsay, who just doesn't give a shit, what do you think? I mean, he says it the way it is. Gordon Ramsay, the chef, he swears and tells people,
yeah.
Do you think? What do you think of that style of entertainment?
But that is he is probably a very good operator. He does that for the controversy of what he says and the shock value of it. I don't do it any for the shock value of it, because we have I ever talk about publicly on the television is football. So there's not much you can abuse people about with that. But if you have opinions about players or clubs or personalities, if you're asked an opinion.
Sam, you're a mentor to a lot of the younger players who come through the ranks, and when you do know they're suffering from, they had domestic situations, court cases or drug issues, do you sometimes take them aside and have a chat to them?
I don't think anyone would want to be counselled by me, but I have great respect for people doing it tough. My very good friend Gary Lyon, that's well documented, suffered severely from depression and was in a very bad place. But here's a cliche: at the end of the day, as Ron Barassi used to say, if it is to be, it's up to me. You either face up to what your follies and what you're facing, or there's only two ways you can go. You can either go up or down. A lot of people, go and get counselled and go to rehab and go to all that and have people give them advice, but when it is all said and done, it has to come from within. And it's easy to say that, I know, it's very easy to say that. I have been there a little. I'm not for 1 minute putting myself in the position of people who have really done it tough and have really suffering. But drugs today are just a huge problem in society, and most of the problems facing youth today and middle age, or just facing the community, come from the chronic effects of what drugs do to you, both mentally, physically, and certainly spiritually. And if you like taking drugs, there's not much anyone can do about it, but you just got to be prepared for the consequences, because it is ravaging society.
Sam, thank you so much. I've some great tips for.
I don't know if I've given you any good tips at all.
Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it.
It's a
And
pleasure.
viewers, thanks very much. Tough times never last. We'll be back next week. Good night.